Friends, thank you for being here today. Across the vast rolling plains of the American Midwest, a landscape of immense agricultural productivity unfolds. What if I told you that the price of pork in Shanghai is directly linked to a farmer's decision in Iowa? And what if the future of renewable energy in California could depend on the very same crop? From the fertile soils of Iowa and Illinois to the expansive fields of Nebraska and Minnesota, a visual duopoly dominates the scenery for much of the year. Endless rows of towering corn stalks standing shoulder to shoulder with dense, leafy fields of soybeans. This pairing is not a matter of chance or simple tradition. It is the heart of a complex, deeply entrenched system that underpins the American agricultural economy. The soybean, in particular, has evolved from an alternative crop on the fringes of farming just a few generations ago into an indispensable pillar of modern agriculture. For the American farmer, the cultivation of soybeans is not merely a choice among many, but a decision driven by a powerful convergence of agronomic necessity, economic reality, unparalleled versatility, and the unforgiving dynamics of global trade. To truly understand why U.S. farmers rely so heavily on this single legume is to unravel the interwoven threads of science, infrastructure, and geopolitics that define the nation's heartland. The story of soy is the story of a perfect partnership with corn, a response to an industrial scale market system, the discovery of a crop with 1,000 uses and a high stakes gamble on the global stage. Now, the soybean's place in American agriculture is fundamentally tied to its relationship with another crop, and it all comes down to what happens in the soil. The soybean's foundational role in American agriculture begins not with its own merits, but with the demands of its dominant partner, corn. Corn is, without question, the king of American cash crops, a grain central to everything from livestock feed and ethanol production to processed foods. Its cultivation is a marvel of modern efficiency, but it comes at a significant biological cost. Corn is a notoriously heavy feeder, a crop with a voracious appetite for nitrogen. Nitrogen is a fundamental building block for plant life, essential for the biosynthesis of chlorophyll, which drives photosynthesis and the proteins that constitute the plant's very structure. Each season, a thriving corn crop pulls immense quantities of this vital nutrient from the soil, leaving the land depleted and less capable of supporting the next harvest. For 19th and early 20th century farmers, this reality was discovered the hard way. Without a scientific understanding of soil chemistry, they witnessed their yields progressively decline as they planted the same crop in the same field year after year, a practice known as monoculture. The soil grew tired, less fertile, and the economic consequences were dire. Today, a farmer could theoretically solve this nitrogen deficit with synthetic fertilizers. These fertilizers, most commonly produced through the energy intensive Haber-Bosch process, which uses natural gas as a key component, can replenish the soil with the necessary nitrogen. However, they represent a significant and volatile expense for farmers, a major line item on their annual budget that cuts directly into thin profit margins. Furthermore, the production and application of these synthetic compounds carry a substantial environmental footprint, contributing to water pollution and greenhouse gas emissions. This is where the soybean performs its most crucial, almost magical function. As a member of the legume family, the soybean possesses a remarkable biological capability known as nitrogen fixation. This process is the result of a symbiotic relationship between the soybean plant and specialized bacteria called rhizobia that live in nodules on the plant's roots. The plant provides carbohydrates, sugars produced through photosynthesis to the bacteria as a source of energy. In return, the bacteria perform an invaluable service. They pull inert nitrogen gas, which makes up roughly 78% of the Earth's atmosphere, but is unusable by plants, and fix it, converting it into ammonia. This ammonia is a natural, bioavailable form of nitrogen that the soybean plant uses to fuel its own growth. Crucially, the process does not just benefit the soybean plant itself, it enriches the entire soil ecosystem. When the soybean crop is harvested, the root systems and residual plant matter decompose, releasing a significant surplus of fixed nitrogen back into the soil. This act of natural fertilization primes the land for the following season. When a farmer plants corn in a field that hosted soybeans the previous year, the corn crop inherits a soil environment rich in the very nutrient it craves most. This leads to healthier plants, higher yields, and most importantly for the farmer's bottom line, a dramatically reduced need for costly synthetic fertilizers. The corn soy rotation, therefore, is not just a practice, it is a sophisticated, self sustaining system of give and take. The corn takes and the soy gives back. While other plants can also fix nitrogen, none offer the same comprehensive package of benefits as the soybean. A farmer could plant a cover crop like clover or alfalfa, which are excellent at restoring soil health and preventing erosion. However, these crops have a very limited market value. Planting them is primarily a cost, an investment in the soil for the next season's cash crop. Alfalfa can be sold as forage for livestock, but ranching requires vast acreage and is generally less profitable on the prime, expensive real estate of the Corn Belt. The soybean, in stark contrast, is both a soil restorer and a highly profitable cash crop in its own right. It allows a farmer to perform a vital agronomic function while simultaneously generating a second major stream of revenue from the same plot of land. This dual purpose nature makes it the overwhelmingly logical and economically superior choice, cementing its status as the indispensable partner to King Corn. Of course, what works in the soil also has to work on the balance sheet, and that's where the economic and logistical side of things comes in. Beyond the biological elegance of the corn soy rotation, the soybean's dominance is reinforced by the cold, hard realities of economic and logistical infrastructure. Modern American grain farming is a business of immense scale and mechanization built on a foundation of capital intensive equipment. The fields of the Midwest are worked not by legions of farmhands, but by a small number of farmers operating multi $100,000 machines, massive tractors, technologically advanced planters, and colossal combine harvesters. The economic efficiency of this system hinges on standardization. Here, the soybean offers a decisive advantage. For all practical purposes, it is treated as a grain. It is planted, cared for, and most importantly, harvested using the exact same equipment as corn. A farmer can finish harvesting a cornfield, make a few adjustments to the combine settings, and drive directly into an adjacent soybean field to begin that harvest. There is no need for a second fleet of specialized machinery, which would be a financially prohibitive requirement for most farm operations. This seamless integration allows farmers to rotate between the two crops without incurring massive additional capital costs, making the entire system economically feasible. The soybean is also a remarkably resilient and productive crop, well suited to the diverse soils and climates found throughout the American heartland, from the hotter summers of Missouri to the shorter growing seasons of southern Minnesota. This reliability makes it a safe and predictable bet for farmers whose livelihoods depend on the whims of nature. However, the deepest lock in mechanism for the corn soy duopoly lies in the market infrastructure that extends beyond the farm gate. Once a crop is harvested, a farmer must have a way to sell it. Unlike a local vegetable farmer who might sell directly to consumers at a market, a grain farmer producing thousands of bushels operates on an industrial scale and is entirely dependent on a complex supply chain. The first and most critical link in this chain is the local agricultural cooperative, or co op. These towering grain elevators, iconic fixtures of the rural landscape, serve as aggregation points. During the fall harvest, a steady stream of trucks, filled to the brim with corn or soybeans, line up to offload their cargo. The co op buys the crop from all the farmers in the surrounding region, perhaps within a couple hours' drive, paying the current market value. It then aggregates these thousands of individual loads into massive silos, creating a standardized, fungible commodity that can be sold in bulk to larger buyers. This aggregated grain is then loaded onto trains or river barges and sent to domestic processors or to coastal ports for export. This system is incredibly efficient, but its efficiency is predicated on one thing: scale. It only works because every farmer in the region is growing the same one or two things. This deeply entrenched infrastructure creates a formidable barrier to diversification. Imagine a farmer in central Illinois who, concerned about falling soy prices, decides to plant quinoa or black beans instead. They might successfully grow the crop, but when they drive their harvest to the local co op, they will be turned away. The co op's entire system, its equipment, storage bins, and business relationships, is configured for corn and soy. They have no mechanism for buying, storing, or selling a few truckloads of a niche crop. For a change to be viable, nearly every farmer in the region would have to switch to the new crop simultaneously to create the scale necessary for the co op to justify retooling its operations. This represents a collective action problem of staggering proportions, making it virtually impossible for individual farmers to break from the established pattern. They are locked into the system. As long as the co op takes corn and soy, the farmer will grow corn and soy. So we have this perfect agronomic and economic system. But there's another major factor that makes the soybean so essential, and that's its incredible versatility once it leaves the farm. What truly elevates the soybean from a convenient rotational partner to an economic powerhouse is its extraordinary intrinsic versatility. A single soybean, when processed, yields two distinct and highly valuable commodities: a high protein meal and a high energy oil. This dual output allows the soybean to serve a vast array of markets simultaneously, creating a broad and resilient base of demand that is unmatched by nearly any other crop. It is not just one product, but a platform for many. The primary driver of the global soybean market is overwhelmingly its meal. After the beans are crushed and the oil is extracted, the remaining solid material is a protein rich substance known as soybean meal. An astonishing 97% of the soybean meal used in the United States is destined for animal feed. Its dominance in this sector is due to its near perfect nutritional profile for livestock. It is a complete protein, meaning it contains all the essential amino acids that animals need for healthy growth but cannot synthesize on their own. This makes it the number one protein source for the nation's massive livestock industry. Billions of chickens, hogs, turkeys, and dairy cattle, as well as fish raised in aquaculture farms, are raised on diets centered around soybean meal. This demand is not just domestic, it is a global phenomenon. As nations around the world develop and their middle classes expand, one of the first dietary shifts is an increased consumption of animal protein. This global appetite for meat, poultry, and fish directly translates into a voracious global appetite for soybean meal. For the American farmer, planting soybeans is therefore a direct investment in this powerful and enduring global demographic trend. They are not just growing beans, they are feeding the world's growing demand for protein. While the meal is the main event, the oil extracted during the crushing process is a hugely valuable co product that has found its way into nearly every corner of the modern economy. Its most traditional and widespread use is in food. Soybean oil is the most widely used edible oil in the United States, a ubiquitous, often invisible ingredient in the food supply. It is found in salad dressings, mayonnaise, margarine, baked goods, snack foods, and countless other processed items. Its neutral flavor and functional properties make it a versatile and cost effective choice for food manufacturers. However, in recent decades, a massive new market has emerged for soybean oil, biofuels, driven by government mandates like the Energy Independence and Security Act of 2007, which sought to reduce the nation's dependence on petroleum. The demand for renewable fuels has skyrocketed. Soybean oil has become the primary feedstock for producing biodiesel and a newer, more advanced fuel known as renewable diesel. This sector has grown so rapidly that nearly 40% of all U.S. soybean oil is now directed toward biofuel production. This has had a profound effect on the soybean market, creating a massive new source of demand that is divorced from the food and feed cycles. It provides a crucial price floor for farmers, ensuring that even if demand for feed wanes, there is another major industry waiting to buy their product. Beyond food and fuel, the soybean's versatility continues to expand. Industry researchers and innovative companies are constantly finding new bio based applications for soy. It is being used as an ingredient in everything from industrial lubricants and adhesives to the rubber in tires and the soles of athletic shoes. It is being formed into biodegradable plastics, serving as a sustainable alternative to petroleum based products like straws and food containers. While these industrial applications currently represent a small fraction of overall soy usage, they highlight the crop's incredible potential and the industry's forward thinking efforts to diversify and future proof its markets. This multifaceted demand, from livestock pens to dinner plates to fuel tanks, provides a level of economic security that few other crops can offer. Now, with all this efficiency and versatility, American farmers have become incredibly good at growing soybeans, so good, in fact, that it creates the final and most critical reason for their reliance on the crop: the absolute necessity of global exports. The final and perhaps most critical reason for the American farmer's reliance on soybeans is a matter of simple arithmetic. The United States produces far more soy than it can ever consume on its own. The productivity of the American heartland is so immense that each year farmers harvest billions of bushels of soybeans. After domestic needs for feed, food, and fuel are met, a massive surplus remains. For the entire economic model to remain viable, this surplus must be sold abroad. Exports are not a bonus for the American soy farmer, they are a fundamental necessity. Approximately half of the entire U.S. soybean crop is exported every year. By dollar value, soybeans are the single largest agricultural export of the United States, consistently outranking other major commodities like corn, beef, and wheat by a country mile. The profitability of every single soybean farmer, from a small family operation in Ohio to a large corporate farm in South Dakota, is directly tied to the nation's ability to access and compete in foreign markets. Without this global outlet, the domestic market would be instantly overwhelmed with supply, prices would collapse, and many farms would face financial ruin. For decades, the single most important destination for this massive export volume has been China. As the world's most populous nation, China has an enormous demand for soybeans, but its limited supply of prime farmland means it cannot possibly grow enough to meet its needs. The Chinese government has long prioritized using its land to grow staple food crops like rice and wheat for direct human consumption. To support its colossal hog industry, the largest in the world, and feed its population's growing demand for pork, it must import animal feed on an unprecedented scale. US soybeans, known for their high quality and reliable supply, became the primary source. At its peak, China purchased a staggering share of all US soybean exports, creating a lucrative and symbiotic trade relationship that lasted for decades. However, this profound reliance on a single buyer also created a profound vulnerability. The immense risk of having all of one's beans in a single basket became devastatingly clear in 2018 when a trade dispute between the United States and China escalated. In response to U.S. tariffs on Chinese goods, China levied retaliatory tariffs on a host of American products, with soybeans at the top of the list. These tariffs made U.S. soybeans instantly more expensive for Chinese importers, who quickly turned to alternative suppliers, primarily Brazil. The impact on American farmers was immediate and severe. With their largest customer effectively shut out of the market, the demand for U.S. soy plummeted. Prices fell by almost half compared to the previous year, wiping out profit margins and pushing many farms to the brink of bankruptcy. The U.S. government had to step in with billions of dollars in taxpayer funded aid to offset the losses. This episode was a painful lesson in the geopolitics of agriculture. It demonstrated that the livelihood of a farmer in Iowa could be dictated not by the weather or the quality of their harvest, but by high stakes political negotiations happening in Washington, D.C. and Beijing. While China has since returned as a major buyer, the global trade landscape has shifted. Brazil has solidified its position as the world's top soybean exporter, creating a more competitive environment for U.S. farmers. This ongoing vulnerability underscores the precarious position of the American soy farmer, whose success is inextricably linked to the turbulent currents of international relations. This reliance is further deepened by forces that extend beyond the immediate concerns of market access and into the realms of technology, policy, and long term adaptation. The modern American farm is a high tech enterprise, and this technological ecosystem has been built almost exclusively around the corn-soy system. The same GPS guided tractors and combines that allow for immense efficiency are optimized for the standardized row widths and vast uniform fields characteristic of these two crops. Data driven precision agriculture, which uses yield monitors, soil sensors, and satellite imagery to apply seed, fertilizer, and pesticides with surgical accuracy, represents a massive capital investment. These sophisticated systems are designed to maximize the output of commodity crops, further cementing their dominance. For a farmer who has invested millions in this technology, switching to a specialty crop that requires different planting methods or harvesting techniques would mean abandoning the very tools that make their operation viable. This technological lock in creates another powerful incentive to stick with the proven predictable model of corn and soybeans. Furthermore, the very science of the soybean itself is constantly evolving to reinforce its position as a reliable choice in an uncertain world. For decades, genetic innovation has played a pivotal role in making soybeans easier and more profitable to grow. The development of herbicide tolerant varieties, for instance, revolutionized weed control, allowing for no till farming practices that reduce soil erosion and fuel costs. Today, the focus of that research has shifted toward addressing the existential threat of climate change. Agricultural scientists are working to develop new soybean varieties that are more resilient to drought, more tolerant of waterlogged fields from extreme rainfall, and capable of thriving in shorter growing seasons. This work has enabled the soybean belt to push northward into areas like North Dakota, once considered unsuitable for the crop. As farmers face increasingly volatile and unpredictable weather patterns, the promise of a crop that is being actively bred to withstand these challenges makes it a far safer bet than alternatives that lack such a robust research and development pipeline. Finally, the entire system is underwritten by the framework of U.S. agricultural policy. Federal programs, particularly crop insurance, are the bedrock of the American farmer's financial safety net. These programs are designed to mitigate the immense risks inherent in farming, from devastating droughts to catastrophic price collapses. However, this safety net is not woven evenly. The insurance products and subsidy structures are most developed and most favorable for large scale commodity crops with deep historical data and established markets, namely corn and soybeans. A farmer planting soybeans can secure insurance policies that protect their revenue against a host of potential disasters. If they were to plant a less common crop, the available insurance options would be far more limited, more expensive, or perhaps non existent, exposing them to a level of financial risk that most cannot afford to take. This policy structure, while intended to provide stability, functions as a powerful, albeit indirect, force that steers farmers toward the established duopoly, reinforcing the very system it was created to protect. In conclusion, the American farmer's deep seated reliance on soybeans is not the result of a single factor, but of a powerful and self reinforcing system. It begins in the soil with an elegant agronomic partnership that allows for the sustainable, profitable cultivation of the nation's number one crop, corn. This partnership is locked in place by a deeply entrenched economic and logistical infrastructure built for scale and standardization, leaving little room for alternatives. The soybeans case is further strengthened by its own incredible versatility, a single bean that gives rise to two distinct, high value products that serve a vast and diverse set of markets, from animal feed and food to renewable fuels. Finally, the sheer productivity of this system necessitates a massive export market, a dependence that has been both a source of immense wealth and a point of critical geopolitical vulnerability. For the American farmer, soy is more than just a crop. It is the linchpin of a complex machine forged by a century of science, economics, and global ambition. It is a system of breathtaking efficiency and productivity, but one whose stability is perpetually balanced on a knife's edge.